On this Friday night, deadline delayed. President Trump's threat to attack Iran's energy infrastructure is put off again as the regime tightens its stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz.
And for them, survival is victory.
The latest on the surging price of oil and the growing risk of a global recession. MP apology, the backlash for his apparent defense of Beijing's human rights record.
Have you witnessed forced labor in Shenzhen? Yes or no?
Plus, going out on a high note, the final run for a Canadian skiing legend. And the boys in blue are back after coming close to winning it all, the hype for the Jays' 50th season.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The U.S. president is once again extending his deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to global oil shipments. Donald Trump now says he will delay attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure until April 6th. The Iranian regime has yet to respond to the latest White House peace proposal. But Israel is warning its attacks on Iran will escalate and expand, while the U.S. Secretary of State is offering a new timeline for when he believes the war will end. Jackson Proskow begins our coverage from Washington.
The pace of American airstrikes shows no sign of slowing, even after President Donald Trump said he'd postpone attacks on Iranian energy infrastructure for the next 10 days.
They are being decimated. They are talking. We are talking now. They want to make a deal. Very simply, our military is the greatest in the world by far. Iran is being decimated.
Friday, Israel's defense minister vowed to expand and escalate attacks on Iran. Soon after, Israel struck 2 Iranian nuclear facilities and 2 steel factories. Iran's foreign minister called that a contradiction of Trump's call for diplomacy and said Iran had yet to decide whether to respond to Trump's 15-point plan for peace.
The Iranians at this point, I think, are feeling fairly bullish that they've survived the worst so far. And for them, survival is victory.
Despite claiming Iran's military has been obliterated, U.S. intelligence agencies believe only 1/3 of Iran's missiles have been destroyed, according to the Reuters news agency. And while talking peace, Trump is reportedly weighing sending another 10,000 troops to the region, stoking fears of a ground invasion.
We can achieve all of our objectives without ground troops.
The U.S. Secretary of State reassured G7 foreign ministers the war would end in 2 to 4 weeks, but warned the threat from Iran could last far longer.
Iran that may decide that they want to set up a tolling system in the Straits of Hormuz. Not only is this illegal, it's unacceptable, it's dangerous to the world.
The longer it takes to stop the fighting, the greater the risk the conflict grows. Iran-aligned Houthis in Yemen say they're ready to join the war under certain conditions and could choke off shipping through the Red Sea. All sides seem trapped in a cycle of escalation with no clear path to peace. Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.
The longer the war drags on, the greater the toll on civilians. And a new report from the UN is shedding light on the impact on children. In Lebanon, UNICEF says more than 370,000 children have been forced to flee their homes as a result of Israel's military campaign against Hezbollah. More than 1,000 people have been killed in Lebanon, including at least 121 children. In Iran, more than 1,900 have died in 4 weeks of bombing, according to the Red Crescent, while at least 18 civilians have been killed in Israel. Hackers linked to Iran say they have broken into the personal email account of FBI Director Kash Patel. The hacker group Handala posted photos and documents online which they claim are from Patel's Gmail account. The FBI confirmed Patel's emails have been targeted. Well, the U.S. markets were all seeing red today, led by the Dow Jones, which is down 10% from early February, entering correction territory. The price of Brent crude has surged back above $110 per barrel, erasing an earlier drop that came after President Trump delayed his threat against Iran's power plants. Fuel prices are up around the world, with shortages now being reported in parts of Asia. Even if the conflict does end soon, some experts warn the price pain will continue for months. And Gaviola reports.
Protests in the Philippines' capital of Manila, denouncing price hikes at the pumps, urging the government to regulate fuel prices. This restaurant in India switched to cooking with firewood instead of gas because of a shortage. Business is down by 70%. The U.S. and Israel's war on Iran continues to hammer people and businesses across Asia, exacerbating what economists call oil poverty, limiting livelihoods, stoking inflation for food, fuel, fertilizers.
This means that for farmers, they are facing double shock. They have more expensive fertilizers alongside rising fuel costs.
In Canada, sticker shock at the pumps for motorists.
Gas prices are going high and high, so they are going more unaffordable for the common people.
Filling up normally costs this man $140.
Yeah, but right now almost $200.
And diesel fuel is 50% more expensive than it was 3 months ago. As its price skyrockets, so does the price of just about everything.
Diesel is very much the fuel that drives the global economy. Trucks, trains, and tractors, all of it needs diesel, and it's all going to trickle down to what consumers are paying.
From food at the grocery store, most of which is trucked in, to dining out.
If there's an increase on delivery, freight, gas charges, absolutely. There's only so much restaurant owners can do.
A warning from investment firm Macquarie that 3 more months of the Iran war could cause Brent crude oil prices to skyrocket to $200 a barrel. And that scenario includes a global recession. Now, even if the conflict ended overnight, analysts say it would take months for energy and food prices to settle, meaning people should brace for inflation on a lot of things. Jeff?
And Gaviola in Toronto. Thanks, Ann. Liberal MP Michael Ma is facing backlash after he appeared to cast doubt on the Chinese government's human rights abuses, including allegations of forced labor. Ma was engaging with an expert witness at a parliamentary committee hearing yesterday. Ma crossed the floor from the Conservatives in December and accompanied Mark Carney on a trip to Beijing in January. He since apologized for his comments yesterday, but as Jillian Piper reports, the Prime Minister is now under pressure to respond.
I am appalled, outraged, and at first I was speechless.
This Uyghur leader is calling on the federal government to apologize after Liberal MP Michael Ma downplayed China's use of forced labor against Uyghur people.
Calling Uyghur genocide and forced labor anything else is ignorance at best or a defense of the CCP at worst.
Roshan Abbas called Ma's behavior at a parliamentary committee Thursday an insult to the victims of genocide.
Have you witnessed this yourself? Have you been there ever?
I've been to China many times.
Have you witnessed
since
forced labor in
1979?
Have you witnessed forced? Just a short answer. Have you witnessed forced labor in Shenzhen? Yes or no?
Ma was questioning Margaret McQuaig Johnson, who served on a Canada-China Joint Committee for 7 years during her 37-year public service career.
This is the only time I've ever been treated as a witness in this manner.
Ma issued an apology on social media, saying, "I asked questions that inadvertently came across as dismissive of the serious issue of forced labor. To be clear, my line of questioning referred to auto manufacturing in Shenzhen, China, and not in Xinjiang. I regret this mistake and apologize."
Is he kidding?
But while McQuaig Johnson appreciates those words, she says he's using confusion over which Chinese state he was referring to try to absolve some responsibility.
He's conflating what was online and using that as part of his apology, as part of a cover, and as an excuse. But I don't think there was any excuse.
Ma made headlines in Beijing with local outlets praising his relentless questioning. But at home, the interaction is calling into question the Liberal government's position.
I'm sure the Prime Minister wants to put this behind him. The best way he can put it behind him is to commit to very strong action on forced labor.
The Prime Minister did speak publicly in Nova Scotia Friday, Jeff, but did not address Ma's remarks.
Jillian Piper in Ottawa. Thanks, Jillian. New Democrats are gathering in record numbers this weekend in Winnipeg, where they will pick a new leader and chart a new course for the party. The NDP was decimated in last year's federal election, losing official party status and its longtime leader, Jagmeet Singh. Our Melissa Ridgen is at the convention, where the party is getting a boost from a popular premier. Hi, Melissa.
Jeff, it's not surprising that the NDP chose here to gather. The provincial NDP have a majority government, with Premier Wabkanu enjoying the highest approval rating of all premiers at 61%. So who better to generate hype for the future?
What is the future of the federal NDP? It's victory.
Okay, thank you. Optimism has been building for months, in large part because of the search for a new leader. 5 are vying for the top job, with journalist and activist Avi Lewis widely considered the frontrunner, and Edmonton Strathcona MP Heather McPherson seen as the strongest alternative to Lewis. Whoever wins Sunday has an uphill battle after Orange was crushed in 2025. Losing party status, losing their former leader Jagmeet Singh, and seeing their 7 seats slip to 6 when Nunavut MP Laurie Idlut crossed the floor earlier this month to join Mark Carney's Liberals. Rebuilding the party and mobilizing the base is one thing.
Northern BC represent!
But clawing out from the lowest voter support in 3 decades is another, says this analyst.
If we actually want to do the things that we want to do, you then need to be able to go to Canadians and have a message that passes with them.
And that's another big part of this weekend's convention, developing policies to appeal to Canadians. Delegates will debate the party's stand on things like nuclear energy, pipelines, U.S. President Donald Trump's trade war, healthcare, and the economy. Jeff.
Melissa Ridgen in Winnipeg. Thanks, Melissa. Starting this summer, President Trump's signature will be printed on new U.S. currency, a first for a sitting president. Historically, U.S. bills have contained signatures of the Treasurer and the Treasury Secretary. It's part of a broader push by the White House to put Trump's name and image on national symbols and institutions. Turning to breaking news now, golf star Tiger Woods has been arrested and charged with impaired driving after a rollover crash in Florida. It happened not far from his home on Jupiter Island. Police believe Woods was driving at a high rate of speed and rolled his SUV over as he swerved to avoid another vehicle that was turning ahead of him.
The individual driving that Land Rover was able to crawl out the passenger door of the car and was identified to be Mr. Tiger Woods. Mr. Woods did exemplify signs of impairment.
Police say Woods had not been consuming alcohol, but was arrested and detained for impaired driving. He wasn't injured. 5 years ago, Woods suffered serious leg injuries in another rollover crash near Los Angeles. He just recently returned to competition after rupturing his Achilles tendon a year ago and undergoing a 7th back surgery in September. A Nova Scotia clean energy project finds a second wind. Coming up, why the federal government is fast-tracking development of an offshore wind farm. The federal government is announcing plans to spend about $29 million on a dozen clean energy projects across the country. Nearly half of that funding will go towards research projects in Saskatchewan that focus on carbon capture and storage technology. The government is also contributing funds to solar power and smart grid innovation projects to improve energy efficiency. The war in Iran and the global energy crisis are renewing calls to invest in renewable energy. The Prime Minister was in Halifax today, where he signed a deal with Nova Scotia's Premier to simplify the approval process for major infrastructure projects. As Heidi Petracek explains, it's putting wind in the sails of one project in particular with enormous potential.
On the East Coast, the wind blows at roughly 10 meters per second, higher than the global average and prime to generate electricity.
That has the potential, if fully developed, to power 1/4 of Canada's electricity needs.
Nova Scotia now has an agreement with Ottawa to streamline environmental reviews to get offshore wind up and running.
That will send a message to the market, to the developers, to the people building the cables, that there's a willingness to kind of have a reasonable process there.
Premier Tim Houston's plan is dubbed Wind West, a massive project intended to become Canada's first offshore wind development.
It's a huge opportunity for our country.
It's not even close to built, but one of the nation's biggest utilities, Hydro-Quebec, has already expressed interest in connecting its grid to Wind West. Massachusetts has lined up to purchase its potential power, and a French firm and its South Korean partner are among companies planning to bid on its development.
As we start to talk about the agreements forming, now we get to how do we enable this? And that's the next piece of the equation that'll be unlocked by regional collaboration.
With the world's oil supply caught in turmoil in the Middle East, governments want domestic sources of clean power separate from volatile energy markets, Canada included.
What's really needed
to keep costs low for consumers is to plan this all together.
And so the Atlantic provinces have been coordinating to put different forms of renewable energy into one package to meet growing demand for electricity.
It's all about using the right asset at the right time and connecting the grid so we're not 13 different energy islands across the country.
Nova Scotia's ambitious offshore wind plan, part of a national strategy to power the country years down the road. Heidi Petrajic, Global News, Halifax.
A Canadian legend on the slopes is hanging up his skis. Still ahead, our Mike Armstrong catches up with Mikhail Kingsbury at his final competition. The 4 astronauts of the Artemis II mission, including Canada's Jeremy Hansen, arrived at the Kennedy Space Center ahead of Wednesday's planned launch. The crew arrived at the launch site on their training jets. They're set to become the first lunar travelers in more than half a century, and they said they're stoked about the mission.
I got to tell you, I am fired up. My family it's hard to say goodbye. We'll see them again tomorrow, but we're all fired up to go do this. So, allons-y.
The 10-day mission will see the astronauts travel around the moon. It's scheduled to launch on April 1st, but the mission has faced months of delays due to fuel leaks and other technical issues. One of Canada's greatest athletes is calling it a career. Mikhail Kingsbury, fresh off 2 Olympic medals at the Winter Games, announced this morning he's retiring. Known as the King of the Moguls, he's competing one last time back where it all began. Our Mike Armstrong explains.
To be as dominant and as consistent as Mikhail Kingsbury has been takes confidence. A bit of that was on display when we caught up with the Moguls legend between practice runs and asked why he was retiring.
Well, what could I do more?
Now, if that sounds like bravado, we can back it up. Kingsbury leaves his sport as its all-time leader in World Cup Tour victories with 100. He won the World Championships 9 times, and over 4 Olympic Games, won 2 gold medals and 3 silver. Kingsbury's very proud parents say they never dreamed he'd accomplish what he did.
Never.
He's won everything.
Yes, yes.
Now, the location of this last competition was picked for a reason. The Canadian Freestyle Ski Championships are being held at Mont Saint-Sauveur, north of Montreal. Kingsbury calls it his backyard. His family's cottage is nearby. It's where he learned to ski at just 4 years old and later learned to compete.
I done my first race here when I was 7 years old, so in that course, it's nice to do my last one here at home.
It's very emotional weekend. To finish his career here at Saint-Sauveur, where everything starts.
It's got to be surreal.
Yes, it is.
One thing that changed for Kingsbury recently is his focus. Where for years skiing was the biggest thing in his life, there's now something more important. He and his partner last summer had a son. Kingsbury says he's accomplished everything he set out to on the hill. He's now giving fatherhood his full attention. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Saint-Sauveur, Quebec.
Revamping the roster. Up next, the new-look Blue Jays take to the field. So what are the chances of a return trip to the World Series? Welcome back. The Toronto Blue Jays kick off their 50th season tonight. And after last year's historic World Series, fans are, of course, hoping for a repeat run. Our Eric Sorensen has been tracking the team's changes and how they're handling those sky-high expectations for this year. Hi, Eric.
Jeff, it's always risky to say you have a better team than one that was a force out at home plate away from winning the World Series. But in this, their 50th season, the Blue Jays and their fans are full of confidence. It's chilly at the end of March, but there is still a warm afterglow from last fall's glorious run to the World Series.
To start the new season, get the boys back out there on the field.
I had to just buy the Springer shirt because, you know.
Oh, yeah.
No, this was a moment to remember.
Another historic milestone in Blue Jays history. From the very first game 49 years ago to Joe Carter's home run, and now the Springer dinger, and oh so close to toppling the favored Dodgers in 2025.
We are riding the excitement from the World Series into this year.
and riding on that high, it's like such a great feeling.
The starting pitcher for the home opener, Kevin Gausman, says the players' camaraderie made the Jays a better team.
We really just kind of got really close and then started having fun and playing great baseball, and then we kind of found like our identity as a team.
They have superstar Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to lead the way, though they lost Bo Bichette to free agency. So can they be a better team?
Yes, without a doubt.
The general manager is bullish on the Jays' new players, Japanese star Kazuma Okamoto, and 2 top-flight pitchers, Cody Pence and potential Cy Young contender Dylan Cease.
Bolstering our pitching, first and foremost, which we talked about, was a very clear goal and one that we feel that we accomplished in a significant way. And then the addition of Okamoto is something that we're very excited about.
The right mix of guys who love it here and newcomers who want to be a part of it.
We have enough guys that were here last year, realized it was a pretty special feeling to walk into this building every day. The 26 Blue Jays will definitely be a little bit different than the 25, albeit 25 was really fun.
These Blue Jays won't be sneaking up on anybody this year. Expectations are sky high, and so is the excitement. Jeff?
Can't wait. Eric Sorensen, thanks. That is Global National for this Friday. I'm Jeff Semple, and tonight's Your Canada is Castleton, Ontario. We love seeing your Canada, so please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you back here again tomorrow. Have a great night.